Hello and welcome. Today's masterclass with Manage360. The idea here is to get the most out of your landscape business operating system using Manage360, and we've arranged to have our implementation specialist today be Fabio Ronconi. Going to take us through some areas of Manage360 to really help us in our understanding of timesheet workflow. So today's number 7 in our series, and we're going to be talking about how timesheets work. And the fact that timesheets are so important to the tracking of the work of the jobs, it's essential for the job costing inside of Manage360. This session will really cover how to manage timesheets from the creation of the timesheet through to the approval process and its two-step approval. Fabio, I have you on the line with me?
Yeah, I'm right here, Joe.
Right on. Thank you for joining us. Part of the reason that we're doing the job tracking part of it through timesheets is for the purpose of job costing, and really this all goes towards helping tighten cost control on ongoing jobs, to prevent overruns on future jobs, and to build a cost history that we can then apply to estimating. So Fabio, you're going to take us through all the ins and outs of timesheets today.
Yep, I'll be doing that, going through
Right
just the
Right on. So
process.
I think this is probably a good time to hand it over to you. Why don't you go ahead and take control of the screen and show us what timesheets are all about.
Excellent, excellent. So let me just get do that over here. All right, so welcome everyone again. Like Joe said, today is the masterclass number 7 about the timesheets workflow process. So we're going to kind of go into, like, again, from the creation part. So we'll talk about the overview of the process itself, get into, some simpler stuff, how to make a timesheet, what happens when they're made, how the timesheets are filled in, and then once they're filled in, how do they become the job actual? So the approval process. So the timesheets, like Joe said, they have an approval process. So they need to be submitted back for review and then final approval. And then those timesheets, the information on those timesheets becomes the job actual. So we'll kind of go over all the different steps and different items that happen between the steps and some setups. So basically, we're going to start with kind of an overview. Now, right now, I'm logged into our training center. I'm on our home screen, so it's a typical view. I see tasks that they haven't done, so they're overdue on there as well, and they can deal with those. But so the timesheets part, again, a couple things with timesheets. So again, I'll reiterate it over and over again. They're very important to the whole job tracking, job costing process, because it is that data, like from the timesheets, the durations, how long were the crews there, how much material did we use, how much equipment time did we use, and anything that's on our estimate becomes part of the job, and then that information is on the timesheets, so it gets filled in and it becomes the job actuals on there as well. So like on any individual job, you can view the job actuals. Also, we have a reporting section. So in the main reports area in Manage, which Jordan reviewed a few sessions ago, in this job management section here, the majority of these reports are getting their information from the job actuals, which come from the timesheets. So again, as timesheets are done, it fills in the data. It's the biggest data entry point in Manage. It generates ton of information for us to use in reporting at, again, on an individual job level, on an overview for a multi-job over a date range. All of that information is coming from that. So employee hours report comes from the timesheets. It knows who was on the job, how much time they spent on those jobs, when it was done. Job cost detail, job profitability, same kind of thing. All that information, how much we used versus what we had estimated, all coming from the timesheets on there as well. So again, they're a critical piece to the whole time tracking, job costing process in there. Now, the other thing, like Joe was saying, there is a workflow with timesheets and Manage. Again, similar, again, we talked about change orders. Fugo change orders have an approval process. Timesheets also have an approval process. So there is a built-in workflow for the timesheets. So there is a main timesheet there. The timesheet comes in. The timesheet is in progress. that means it's being worked on, it's being filled in, or it's been just created. Then the timesheet goes into a ready for approval state on there as well. And then when they're ready for approval, you can see they're ready. That means they're ready for someone in the office to review, or admin staff to review. They need to be reviewed before final approval. And finally, the timesheets are approved, and then that means all the data that's on there, it's the approval of the timesheet that makes the information on those timesheets become the actuals in the job. If I fill a timesheet out, if I don't approve that timesheet, or if the timesheet doesn't get approved, that information on there is not then transferred to the actual of the job. So the approval process is a key part of the whole workflow. In progress, ready for approval, and then finally approved on there as well. So that's, again, the big push on there as well. And we'll go through the process today as well. And then now, again, there's a couple of views in here which we'll talk about a little bit, like to kind of help sort, again, depending on how many timesheets you have, find specific timesheets, look for timesheets on there. But again, workflow is very key to the timesheets as well. Now, the other thing that we're not going to talk about really today is the mobile app as well. So we do have a mobile app to help fill the timesheets in. So that is our next masterclass, is the mobile app explicitly on there as well. This is, the timesheets themselves are critical to understand, so that you're using the mobile app, it flows into the mobile app, but knowing the timesheet process is important. However it gets filled in, like I said, that we have a separate masterclass to handle that mobile app process. Now, with the timesheets again, so at a high level, let's talk about them. The timesheets in Manage are for a crew for a specific day. So for example, this is for April 11th for the maintenance crew. Now, you can call the crews anything you'd like, and we'll talk about that shortly, but timesheets, again, for a specific crew, for a specific day. A crew can have one person, a crew can have 3 or 4 people in there as well. It really, the size of the crew it's not critical to Manage as far as they go, but it's like one timesheet per crew per day. Now, on the timesheet itself, so what is this crew doing today? What did this crew do today on there? You can have a single job, it can be a construction job, it can be a maintenance work order, it can be a maintenance visit, it can be multiple stops. I may have to go to 10 stops today, I may have to go to 6 or 1. The timesheet is capturing all of the work that we're doing on a single day. If, again, I can do a construction job and a maintenance visit on the same timesheet, that's fine as well on there. But basically, the timesheet is what this crew did on a specific day. Now, for the timesheets, the creation of the timesheets, all of the creation happens in this production timesheets area where we are right now. Any new timesheet, regardless of who it's for, the date, all the creation happens in here as well for that. And we'll come back and we'll go through making the timesheets as well. Now, once the timesheets are made, again, they get filled in by the crew leader, by the foreman, and then submitted for approval. Talk about as part of the built-in process. They can be done on paper. Again, you can print off a timesheet. It can be filled in. Then the data can be re-entered into Manage as well. It can be done directly on the Manage360 site, because it's a website. If I have a device in the field that I can view the website with, they can be filled in there as well on there. Alternatively, like I said, we do have the mobile app, which again, the foreman will log in, fill in their specific timesheet as well. But all of it is relied on those times being filled in. And then finally, like I said, they get approved, which makes all of the items on the timesheet the job actuals. On approval, and which we'll look at shortly, the timesheets then become locked. So the timesheets, when they're approved, they're locked. They are no longer editable as well. And there are ways to deal with that. We'll talk about that as well. Now, just kind of the high-level overview again, their creation, approval to get filled in, come the job actuals. Now, in order to, there's a few setup things that I want to talk about in order to kind of make the timesheets work more smoothly as well, and also to make the job costing more effective. Number one is, since the timesheets are assigned to a specific crew, you want to set the crew up in the settings area. So you want to create the crew in the settings, and from there, once you've got the crew, you can assign who is typically the foreman of this crew on there as well. And then once you have the crew, then you can assign, okay, these employees typically work on this crew. Now, if a couple guys are always working together or frequently working together, they can be on part of the same crew, because then they will be automatically brought onto the same timesheet. I just want to quickly just go into that. So if I go into the settings area, in settings, down under my company settings, there is a crews section. This is where the crews are created and managed from here. So in the crews, like I said, this has gone over more specifically in another session, but you can have the crew, you can go into the crew, give the crew a name, like I said, whatever works best. You can give the crew a color on there as well, and then you can assign who the foreman of the crew is on there as well. And once the crew is created, then the addition of employees, so who is on this crew typically, again, other people can be on the crew, like now we'll talk about the crew management at the timesheet level as well. But for the setup, so that when I make timesheets, I know that Fabio and Vaughn work together 90% of the time. So I want to put them on the same crew, so I'm not always adding people on there as well. Once I have this crew, then in the employees section, and again, it's also in the settings, under my company settings, under employees, this is where you can assign. So again, you can assign the person on the employees themselves. In the general information tab, there is what crews does this person typically belong to on there as well. And you can click on which crew that they are on. So then this gets used when I create a timesheet, it'll make it for the crew and it'll automatically bring these people on there as well for that. Like I said, you can always adjust that later as well. Now, another thing, since we're here on the employees page, the other big thing, or the other very important thing for the setup with regards to job costing and timesheets is for the people on the crew, whether it's a foreman or the laborers, whoever, this cost per hour field here is important to have this filled in prior to timesheet creation. Because if I make a timesheet and a particular employee is on it, it uses the cost per hour when you made the timesheet. So this gets funneled through when I eventually approve that timesheet, and against those jobs that they worked on, the actual labor cost is reflected by a weighted average of who was on that job that day, how many hours were they on the job, what is the cost per hour for each of the people on those jobs as well. So it's very important that this cost per hour here be set up prior to timesheet usage. Now, if we've been working for halfway through the year and all the data is good, and then we decide in June, for example, to give a couple guys some raises on there as well, at that stage, you can come back into here, adjust this cost per hour so that going forward, that's going to the actual cost is going to be reflected on the new timesheets. The old ones that were already in the system, that's not going to change for those as well on there. So again, very important to have this set up there as well. Now, the other setup type part on there as well is in the jobs themselves. So when you have, again, in a construction job, there's some tracking settings. And again, we'll review this again on the timesheet, but just so you know, on the jobs, in the general tab, there is a very bottom time tracking here as well. How are we tracking the time on this job? So we can track it by labor type or by cost code. So this really determines, again, what level of time tracking is on the timesheets themselves on there as well. Then within that, we have work areas. Do I want to use work areas? So if you have used work areas on your estimates and then on your jobs, then when my timesheet will display those same work areas on the timesheet so my guys can track labor, equipment, materials, and subcontractors in those same work areas as well. So again, and these are options that are set at the division level, so that when I win an estimate, it turns into a job, it knows, oh, these are your default time tracking options. It defaults them, you have to set them every time. You can change that on a per job basis. You'll notice that this one, it says here, I can't change it because I already have timesheets. This is the key here. So if I've started tracking a job a certain way, I can't change halfway through the job and decide, no, I don't want to track my work areas anymore. It's not going to make sense in the job. You can't do that. But at the beginning of the job, before there are any timesheets, you can definitely change at the job level how you want to track those jobs. Now, like I said, I just want to touch on that for now in the timesheets one, but in a couple weeks, there's going to be another specific more job tracking masterclass. We'll get into those into a little more detail and how it breaks down on jobs as well. But basically for here, this time tracking on the job is reflected on the timesheet because it's going to track exactly how you're going to see it in the job actuals as well. So those are kind of three main points for the setup is that the crews need to be set up. You have the crews set up. Now, the crews are not hard and fast. Like I said, you can change those on the fly. The employees, what crew they belong to, and the cost is critical. And then on the jobs themselves, how are you tracking it? This will affect how I'm tracking construction jobs on the timesheet as well. Now, just going to jump back out to, now that I've got set up the actual timesheet workflow process. So now that I have my setup done, now I'm going to start tracking time. How do I create a timesheet on there as well? Like I said, and if you've done implementations with me as well, I've probably said it many, many times, all timesheets, the creation, always done from the production timesheets area. So any timesheet you want to make, I go to here. Once I've made it, then I can see those timesheets on the individual jobs themselves, whether it's construction or maintenance. That's fine. So once I've made it and it knows, oh, this is where you're going, then you can see those. But the initial creation always happens from here. Now, when you create, again, there's a new button. This is what we use to create the timesheet. When I do that, again, because we talked before, it's for a crew, for a specific day. This is how it goes. Click on new timesheet. And again, this is my timesheet. Whoops, and again there. This is a create timesheet for this date, and so it defaults to today's date. Whenever you do this, it defaults to today's date, and it defaults to this crew, the first crew alphabetically. Now, if I make one for construction crew 1 and I immediately click new timesheet, it'll now go to construction crew 2. So it'll kind of go through alphabetically if you're making new timesheets for all the crews on there as well. But you can definitely choose a specific crew. The default is today's date, first one in the list that doesn't already have a timesheet on there. Now, if I hit cancel, nothing will happen, change the crew. When you click the create timesheet button, this is now where it is going to go through things that have been scheduled. Now, whether they've been scheduled, whether it's a construction job that's ongoing, or whether I have several maintenance visits already scheduled, I've scheduled them through the router, scheduled them on the calendar, scheduled work orders, the timesheet will now go and capture all of the work that this particular crew is assigned to. Like I said, there may be one thing, there may be 10 things, there may be nothing if that crew has nothing assigned to them on the particular day as well. So I will click the create timesheet button here. Now, like I said, it's going to create it, search, load it up. In this example here, it's found there's one, this crew is currently scheduled at one job on here as well for that. So it's been added automatically. And again, this timesheet now, I can hit cancel. The timesheet's already been made and saved on there as well. So it'll be created on there as well. So that timesheet is now done. I can hit save and close if again, once you've got more comfortable, hit save and close, you're done. This timesheet's already ready to go. It's ready to be filled in. Like I said, whether it's someone using it on the managed site or whether it's using the mobile app, it's now ready to go to be filled in on there as well. But I want to go through some of the things on the timesheet here as well before, just getting out of here. Now, so the timesheet, you can notice the in progress. So like I said, you will always see the status, the phase, where is this timesheet in the workflow currently? This one's in progress. Like if we just made it. Eventually we'll start saying ready for approval and approved on there as well as the timesheet works its way through the workflow itself on there. Now, there is a little button right here. It's a show address button. This button is remembered when you last log in. If you click it once, remember, it's very useful. If I turn it off, so it looks like if it's off, you just see the name here. If you want to get more detail, again, you click on it and you can see job number and address of that on there as well. Again, if you have several stops and you don't want to see them all detailed, you can turn it on or off depending on what you're looking at on there. But it does remember whatever you had it clicked on different times. The same thing applies also to the simple and advanced. So if I'm in simple view and I go through and I save this and I load up another timesheet, it'll open up in simple view as well. If I'm in advanced, and again, when I'm using that, I'd like to be in this view. I save and close this, make another timesheet, or open another timesheet. It will open up in the advanced view as well for that. Now, I'm going to talk about a few things here now. So on the timesheet, this is a construction. Again, timesheets themselves, you can have both construction and maintenance on the same timesheet. I just want to talk about some of the construction type things on here. Then we will also open a maintenance timesheet and kind of look at very, very similar. There's a few differences on there. So number one, in the items on the timesheet, the J is for job, construction job. If it is a visit, it'll be V. If it is a work order, it'll be WO on there as well. Also the colors, green, open. If it's gray, it's closed. NB, non-billable. Those are blue. The non-billables are in the settings. You can create some non-billables on there as well. Now, typically the default setup again that we have, this can definitely be changed depending on the company for sure. Lunch comes on as a non-billable. That's between 12 and 12:30, 30-minute lunch on there as well. And again, the actual time of lunch, it's not critical at this point because typically when the guys fill it out or when it gets filled out by the crew, they will fill in their actual lunch time, which is fine on there. But if you don't want lunch to automatically appear, so if you don't and by default it does, if you don't want lunch to automatically appear, you can go into the division settings, and in the division settings, there is a default length of time for lunch. If you set that to 0, it won't, when you make a timesheet, it will not automatically load lunch on there as well. Now, you can always add it by clicking in this search box, and you can always be added after the fact if they want to put on there as well. That's fine. But the default is load up with lunch. To turn it off in the division settings, in a specific division of the crew, you can set that on there as well. Now, again, because it's a construction job, when I first loaded this up, it defaults to 7 to 5. Now, again, they may not be there exactly between 7 and 5, but that initial 7 and 5 is, again, just coming from the division settings on there. Like I said, it's not critical because these will be overridden by when the guys filled in or when the crew fills it in, what time they actually started. 6:54, 7:15. That's fine. That'll come in afterwards. But for it does default to this is what was in the division setting, 7 to 5. It can be changed here as well, but eventually, like I said, it's going to be filled in by the actual start and end time on there as well. So again, this is a construction one. We'll go through a few other things on here as well. Now, in the search, like I said, if it finds a job, but if I know they're going somewhere else that wasn't scheduled, I can go into here and I can search for those, and I can type in the job number here or a job name, and I can find different job names that they're going to as well, and I can select the jobs directly there on there as well. I can also search by account name. Like I said, I also can search for non-billable items. So if I wanted to put non-billable items, you can search and it will find those as well. Again, those are prefixed by the blue NB on there. Now, like I said, those can be managed. There are some on everyone's site that's using 360, but if you want to add additional non-billables, not a problem. You go into settings, non-billables, you can add those, as many as you'd like to track as well on there. Those can be added. Even if I make a timesheet and there's nothing on it, you can definitely come into here, search, and add additional items to the timesheet as well for that. Now, so if I find the one I wanted to add, like I said, you can add yard time. It just goes on there. Like I said, if I want to put a default start and end time, I can. Whenever I'm adding, they always add to the bottom. Then when I save it, it'll resort it based on the start and end time if I put them in. There's one. I'll just leave it like this for now so I can show you a couple other things here. When you're in advanced, so when you're in advanced, and again, if you're building it like Teen Advanced, on the far right side, there is drop-down boxes here as well. So there's some options in here. And again, these options will depend based on what row I'm looking at. So this is a construction job. This is non-bill. So I click on it here for a construction job. I will have a couple moves and a delete button. Now, these move options, I want to explain what they're for. The move options, and you'll see these on maintenance visits as well. These are if the timesheet is going over 24 hours or it's going overnight on there as well. So typically a timesheet is for a single day, April 11th, 7 to 5. If for some reason we have some work now, typically may not be construction, but if I have some maintenance work and that's often a snow type of work, or if I'm starting at 8 o'clock at night on the 11th and I need to start scheduling things on the 12th, I can still keep on the same timesheet by using this move function here as well. This allows me to actually just change the date, but keep it on the same timesheet and adjust it, like the time will stay the same. So it'll be on the 12th at 7 a.m. on there as well. So these two are really only used when the work is going overnight on the same timesheet. Again, not often used in construction, really on maintenance used mainly when there's snow type of functionality on there as well. Now, the delete function. If you have a construction job or a non-billable, you'll see the delete button. So the delete means take it off the timesheet. It doesn't mean we're not deleting the job as a whole. We're saying, oh, we're not going to this job today. So even though it put on here something may have changed, I want to take it off the timesheet. So delete, and again, when you click delete, it's always going to ask for confirmation. So if I had put details in the job log, it'll take them off because it's going to be removed from the timesheet as well. So if I click yes, this job will be taken off the timesheet. I can add it back again the next day, not a problem on there as well. But delete will remove a construction job from the timesheet. Now, for non-billable items, I don't have a move on non-billable. Sorry, there's move on non-billable. I can't reschedule non-billable. I can also delete the non-billables as well if I have to. And again, like I said, this yard time, put it on. If I put anything on accidentally, yard time, I need to remove it. I click here, I can delete it. Again, I'm just removing it from this specific timesheet. Click delete, click yes, and so now timesheet refreshes, that one's gone. So those, you have all of those available in advanced view. And again, we'll be opening up a maintenance timesheet shortly and reviewing a couple different options on there. They're very, very similar, but there's a few different ones specifically for maintenance type visits and work orders. Now, within the timesheet itself, again, other things you can do here. I want to talk about the actions button of the timesheet here. So the timesheet has been made. Under the actions, I have optimize, and again, when I have one stop, so if you and sometimes a lot of times if you hover over areas in manage, especially where there's yellow highlighting or things that are disabled, if you hover over it, it tells you why you can't do this particular function. So in this case, it's saying, well, you can't optimize this because you only have one stop. So there's no optimization. You have at least 2 different stops in order to optimize on there as well. So I'll open this again in a different timesheet with multiple stops and to show you what it looks like as well. So that's kind of doing our optimization directly for the items on this timesheet. I have a full delete of the timesheet here. Like I said, if I made a timesheet inadvertently, or I'm testing something out, or I don't need this timesheet anymore, I can delete the whole timesheet. Now, this delete is only available when the timesheet's in progress. If the timesheet is in any other state, the delete is not available, and I'll show you what that looks like as well. You'll have to revert the timesheet. Now, I can print the contact list. There's a view contact list. Basically, this will give me a list of all the contacts on this timesheet. I only have one in this particular case, and I'll run it for the maintenance one, so you can see just the differences. Basically, it's going to run. It's the same report. It's essentially running one of our reports, the contact list report from the main reports area, but it's running it specifically for the people on this timesheet or for the contacts on this timesheet as well. And I'll show you how that one works. Now, also the print. So again, if you want to print this timesheet here to get a hard copy, under Actions, Print Timesheet. When you do Print Timesheet, you'll be presented with Print Timesheet dialog, and there's 2 kind of report types. Now they're very similar. They just kind of differ in a little bit of the layout information. The route list is more if I'm going through to multiple stops and I kind of want to have a summary of each stop without giving a full detail for every single stop. I can use like a route list type report. Timesheet style is more for the construction style, where it's just going to kind of give me a summary at the top, and then I'm able to include the actual specific job logs, because the construction ones are all about the job logs. What did you do on this job on this day as well? So I'll print it with this just to kind of see what it looks like. Now, for any report, any job log that we run, we do have options to show crew instructions. Again, this goes all the way back to the job and to the estimates of crew instructions. I want to show them. And I can also choose to limit work areas if I'd like to as well. If I know that we're only going to be doing a specific part of the job today, and I don't want to print out too much paper, I can limit the work areas on here as well. If I choose yes, it'll print them all. If I choose no, then it'll allow me to select which specific work areas am I going to print on here as well. I'll just hit yes and show you. So if when this report's printed, whether it's route list or timesheet, and I'll do the route list on the maintenance report so you can see the difference. When I print this, again, it goes right to a PDF, and then that can be printed out in there as well. So it's a PDF, like I said, it's just the summary at the top of where they're going, just a kind of a brief summary of how long they were there, crew instructions up here, contact information for the job, and then it has the actual specific job log for this job. So if they're going to 2 jobs, you may have 2 logs with only 1. And again, this is all details about the job. This is all what they're tracking. And labor is always first. What did you do on this job today? And in this case, we're tracking by work areas. All the work areas are listed, and we're tracking by labor type. So all the labor types are listed here as well. So basically, each person on the crew will be filled in. What did you do today on this job, or what did you do on this date on this job? And it gets filled in. After equipment, so after labor, goes into the equipment, the materials, material usage, equipment usage. If they're subcontractors, they are, also on here as well for that. So this is the job log that gets filled in, that goes into Manage. So these job logs, this is all the information that we had estimated. So this is just, again, the paper copy of this. And we'll look at it again in Manage. But that's what the print timesheet option looks like there. Excuse me. Now, so I've made this timesheet. Now, I'm going to save it. Again, at save and close, it's going to bring me back where I came from, the normal save and close process and Manage. So save and close. So now I'm back on my main timesheets page. Now, I'm going to open now the maintenance. It's for my maintenance crew. It has multiple visits on there as well. It's kind of show a little bit different how that timesheet behaves in there. So I'm going to open it up. Click on the date. Timesheet opens up. So again, one of the biggest differences I have, these are V for visits. These are my different visits that I'm supposed to do on this particular job on there as well. Now, I'm going to look at under the advanced, kind of touch on some of the differences under the advanced area here as well, right here. So under the advanced for maintenance one, because these are visits, or if there were work orders, because these are discrete, this visit is going to be done in 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is. On these, when I click on the button here, I have a reschedule option on there as well. So reschedule allows me to take this off of this timesheet and essentially reschedule it for a different day, or for a different crew, or unschedule. Essentially, the unschedule is built into the reschedule function on there as well. It also has the move, but again, move does not put it onto a different timesheet. These move options again are for 24-hour timesheet. Keeps it on this timesheet as well. So reschedule is what you want to do if you need to do this on a different day. Now, this is a note. If you've been using, if the app is being used, the mobile app is being used, instead of saying if the mobile app is being used, you will see a clock-ins button here, which will show you can see the clock-ins that have come in from the mobile app as well. But in our case, we haven't done that, so I don't see the clock-ins button. This is where you would see the actual clock-in information that's come back from the mobile app. Now, when I click reschedule, and I'll do it on the first one here to kind of give you an example. Click reschedule. It wants to know, first of all, it tells you if you reschedule this, it's going to come off the timesheet. So I'm rescheduling it for a different timesheet on there as well. Now, the start date time is blank. It's fine. The crew, I can do the same crew, but I can also unassign. So basically, if I want to remove this from the timesheet, but I don't know, I'm not sure when it's going to happen, this rescheduling, unassign the crew, blank date, click reschedule, that will essentially unschedule it, take it off this timesheet, put it into the pile of unscheduled visits on there as well for that. Now, if you know we're going to do this tomorrow or Wednesday, or someone else is going to do it, you can choose a different crew, which is fine, or you can choose the same crew, and then you can choose a start date and time on there as well. So we're going to do it tomorrow as well. Excuse me. Now, there's this button right over here. So basically, if I'm going to reschedule several things, like, say two, I finished one thing, or I didn't finish anything on this timesheet, or I finished 2 visits. By selecting on the topmost, now I'll hit cancel here for 1 sec. So if say we want to schedule from Elise, all the things below her want to reschedule. We only got the 1 visit done. So instead of going reschedule, then reschedule, then reschedule, I can select the topmost, click reschedule, and then I can choose, again, it could be the same guys, we could be doing it tomorrow, or it could be a different crew on there as well. And then if I select this box, it's off by default. So if I just hit save, it's only going to reschedule the 1. But if I click this, this will now reschedule this one I'm on, plus all of the other ones below it as well. So then that way, if I need to reschedule the 4 from here on down, got to reschedule, I can select the top one, choose the new date and time and crew, or unschedule them and check this box. And then when I click reschedule, all of those will come off of the timesheet as well for that. I'll keep these guys, and I'll just reschedule one at the bottom here. So I'll hit cancel. So if I do, for example, for one, so if I want to reschedule this one here, click reschedule, same crew, we'll say we'll do it tomorrow. Now, so now if I hit a couple of things here, if I had a timesheet already for April 12th for this crew, when I click reschedule, this thing will automatically be added to an existing timesheet. If I don't have a timesheet, that's fine. This thing will be ready so that when I do make the timesheet, it knows, make sure you add this on that next timesheet. So when I click reschedule, when I do it, the screen is going to refresh. My timesheet now no longer has that last stop because it has been rescheduled to April 12th on there as well. Like I said, so that rescheduling function is only available for maintenance visits and work orders on there as well, because those are discrete items that are being rescheduled in there. Now, like I said, if again, from the mobile app, I said that we'll have another master class on that one, but the rescheduling can be done from the mobile app as well on there. Under the actions button, I just want to show you a couple of ones that you didn't see on the construction one. So under the actions, that optimize order, because now I have 3 stops that I'm making on here, the optimize order button is available on Timesheet. So this basically will feed the address information that we have for our clients into Google Maps and try to give us a best order for us to do this in as well. So when you click optimize order, basically it's going to reorder it matching the routes. Now the default start and end are our yard, again, which comes from our settings in our My Company settings section. So that's what the default, like it says, we're starting here, we're ending here. Now, if I want to change those, I can choose a different starting point. So what it gives me is, okay, your yard's in there because that's where you're starting from. But if you want to start from one of the spots that are already on there, you can choose one of them as the starting point. Alternately, we can use the other button and then either type a new address in here, or if we can search for a specific account that we want to start from. So you search an account, it'll let us start from that specific point on there as well. So we do have options on as far as the starting and ending points go on there. So default to the yard, otherwise we can choose one that's on there. So when we do this, if I click optimize, it would then send this back and again to Google Maps and might rearrange the stops on this particular timesheet, because based on the information that we have, like Google to do it in a different order. So every time that you have at least, again, this work for construction jobs as well. As long as you have at least 2, then you can, if you want to, you can optimize that on there as well for that. But oftentimes, again, in construction, we're just going there because we're going there first to work for the morning, then we're going in the afternoon to their spot. This is more for maintenance visits. The order of the visits might sometimes more important than the construction side on there. But it is available in both, whether it's maintenance visits or construction jobs. The other one here under actions I want to show you is this print button. Again, because we looked at the timesheets, just want to show what the route list style looks like. So if I choose route list here, and again, this one is typically used more often for when there's multi-visits to go through. So in here, so you see the difference. Here's addresses, instructions. If I choose route list, I can choose to show materials and plants. And if there are any, show addresses, show instructions. If I want to show the start end times on here, I can turn those on as well. If I want to turn them off, like I said, if it doesn't, I just want them to fill on the paper they don't have to see the projected start and end time. They just put in their times. I can turn that off also. Now, if I print this again, it goes to generates a PDF for that on there. And again, I just want to show the difference. It's very similar. And then now, instead of having a big summary, just like here's the stop, here's the service we're providing on here as well. Here's the information. Again, I chose to show materials, goes over there. So these are the crew instructions. If we had them, they go right here. Any notes, if there's a notes that the crew would fill in back to the office, they can go here as well. And then again, then those start and end times, they would fill those in based on the actual KU starting date time on there as well for that. Now, so those are the actions, like I said, with the timesheets in progress, like things you can do to the timesheet to help kind of manage it on there as well. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is this green plus button over here. So when we made the timesheet on there, like I said, it's for a specific crew as for a specific day. So it adds in the crew members. So if I went to the settings under and looked at the maintenance crew, these 4 people, they are part of the maintenance crew on there as well. Now, when you're in here, say that someone's sick today, so that they're just not here. Like, you know, I make times I don't want to have them on this timesheet because they're not here today. I can use this. I can use the little trash can icons beside their name to remove them, or just as easy, I can use the green plus button to control who is on or off this timesheet. So when I click that, it shows me here's a list of people. The people that are checked are out at the top on there, and the foreman is in bold. And again, this comes from the crew setup on there, and the foreman's in the drop-down list. Now, if Eddie couldn't make it today, uncheck his name, apply changes, he's just removed from the timesheet. Very, very simple. He's off the timesheet. Again, next time I make this maintenance crew 1, Eddie's back on it because in the settings, he's part of the crew. So just a one-day thing. Again, if this is more of a permanent thing where Eddie's now working with a different crew, you go into settings, fix the crew, so you're not always doing this every day on there as well. But the other thing is that, say the foreman is sick today, and so someone else is going to run, Darian's going to run the crew today instead of Albers, can't make it on there as well. Okay, click on the green plus button. So now I can, and because Darian's checked here, I can switch the foreman right there. And when I save it, Darian becomes the foreman of the crew. Now, if we're going to send someone else, like say we're going to send a different foreman, say we're sending Bob over here to be the foreman of the crew. Before I can choose Bob, I have to click his name. Once he's selected, now I can choose him as the foreman. Now, if Elbers was sick, I can't uncheck him until he is no longer the foreman. So I do have to have a foreman. I can't just say the foreman's not there. I have to choose a different foreman before I do that. So say Bob, Elbers is not there. Click apply changes, and then Bob will now be the foreman on there as well. So when I save it, Bob will now be first on the list, and he's now the foreman of this particular crew, again, on this particular day only. When I do this again, next day, it'll be back to the normal people as well. So you can do that on any kind of timesheet as well. Who's there, switch the guys, add more guys, do a straight add. That works as well. Also, just a note on this list in the timesheets, this list over here, this change employees list. By default, it doesn't show all the employees. It shows people who are working on the crews or assigned to crews. If I want to see, like if for some reason I wanted to add someone who's typically in the office onto the timesheet, if I click all employees, then this list will get bigger. These are people that are active, but not necessarily part of the particular crew on there. They're typically not on there as well. Now, so that's my timesheet. Again, I've made it. I've made some changes to it. I can reschedule things off if I'm not going to do it that day. I can rearrange my crews. If I want to print it, I can do that as well. Now, I'm going to save and close this timesheet. So now I have, again, 2 timesheets for today. You can see now Bob is highlighted here. He's now the foreman of that particular crew. So timesheets have been created. Now, the next step is the timesheets need to be filled in. Now, like I said, I can print it off from there, give it to the crews, they fill it in, comes back. That information has to be entered in Manage. Or if the crews have a laptop or a tablet or something with a big screen that they can actually log into Manage, and they're online. They can view these timesheets directly. Like log into the Manage system, just exactly like we're doing now. It can be filled in there as well. Now, like I said, alternately, these timesheets are now ready for the mobile app. They can be filled in there. So regardless of how they're filled in, they need to be filled in and then basically submitted back for approval. So I'll go over filling in the timesheets again. It's fairly straightforward. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do here. So I'll look at the construction one again, so you can see that style. I'll click on this with the construction job, open that timesheet up. So now when we're filling it in, like I said, how it's getting filled in, the key is the job log here. So sure, we were there from 7 to 5, but see this whole row is yellow. If I hover over here, it's basically telling me there's no hours on the job log. So this is not, and like this timesheet is not approved. I couldn't even approve this timesheet as this because there's nothing on the job log. There's no time, so not even able to approve this. The yellow, whenever you see these kind of yellow shades on the timesheets, on the individual job logs, it means it's kind of like a warning, something you need to review for approval. So the 7 to 5 is fine, but the key information is going to come from the job log itself. Like I said, whether it's paper here or the app, we're saying, what did we do on this particular job? So click on the job log here. This now opens up to be filled in. Like I said, this is to be filled in on the app paper. The paper that I printed out and showed you earlier, it's exactly like this, same order, same items, all getting filled in there as well. So basically, this is where we now are getting into the specific people. So these 3 guys are on the crew, what they do today. So the start and end time, this defaulted for my 7 to 5. That's what I had on my sheet. Now it's going to be over here. However, like I said, if someone left earlier, someone came a bit later, they can definitely each have their own start and end times. If they're the same, if I'd say that we actually got at 7:15, if I want to, and this button here, it means copy from the form and across to everyone else. So I can, if I do that, I can do that and pushes it across. Everyone has the same start time. If Vaughn got there at 7:30, no problem. I can change him. That's fine as well. They can all have different end times as well for the exact same process. Now, what it's doing here, you can see that it's saying 7:15 to 5. Okay, well, lunch. So the construction jobs allow for this overlap of lunch if it's being filled in here. So it knows, it saw that lunch on there and it says, well, there's 30 minutes that you weren't on the job. So basically, this is the key. So you need to tell me now, this is 9 hours and 15 minutes of work on the job. How is this 9 hours and 15 minutes distributed for this guy? For this guy, for Vaughn, in this case, he has only 9 hours because he came in at 7:30. How is this time distributed? So this expected duration is now needs to be distributed among the labor. And it could be one labor item spent all day doing one thing, or 2 different things, or 5 different things. That's fine. But it needs this. The key here is getting this 9 hours and 15 on the timesheet, on the job log. So the start and end time are fine, but the key, the job actual stuff, the duration is what were you doing to what labor items on here as well. So now, just as a note, you can see as you start filling this in, red, this is previous timesheet that we've already approved on there as well. So you can kind of start seeing as time goes by. So flags don't install. We spent 8 hours there. Now you can just type 8 and it's fine. And I go, it'll put 8H in there as well. If it was 8.5 hours, or if it was a fractional number, you just put in 8.5. It'll change it to 8H 30 minutes. You can also type that in if you want to get a very specific number. You can type that in as well. Again, when it comes back from the app, it'll have information on here as well. So clocking into that. But we're filling in the durations. These durations here need to match this expected duration. So if I go to the bottom, you can see that at the bottom again, it's giving me a total for each employee, and they're yellow because that worked the entire duration. You told me 9:15 up here, but I've only got 8.5 on there as well. Now, if you're filling this in at any point, you can save this. Not a problem. It's half filled in. You can save this and come back. If you're entering it off of a printed paper, phone rings, something comes up, you have something else, you can save this. It will save all the information you've entered in so far as well. That's fine with the yellow on there as well. Now, just to show you, if I go, so until I match up exactly, so I need, 45 more minutes here. For example, I go here, 0.75. So now when I have this, when it goes matches, it's now white. That means that you told me 9:15, I've got the 9:15 in here as well. So if I go over, for example, let me just do like this. I'll fill it across, fill it across. Now, the first two guys, I'll be fine. But Vaughn, because his is 9:15, but at the top I have 9, it's complaining saying, this is actually incorrect. If I try to save this, it won't let me because it's saying, this is an error. They're saying that the expected duration is less than what you've told me. So either I need to adjust the expected duration, or he only spent half an hour on that, and then it'll come in correct. And again, like I said, whether I do it in here or it's being put on the paper, like I said, this is kind of a check when the stuff that's being written down. If I'm entering into Manage, it's kind of telling me if there's right or wrong on there. So labor is always first by work area. Again, if we're tracking by work. If we're not tracking by work area, then I will have these labor types rolled up as well. Now, equipment. If I have equipment, equipment's next. And again, same thing. Do we use the blade today? Did we use the tiller? Yeah, we use the tiller today on there as well. Half a day, quarter, whatever. So these, again, this is exactly like we had on the estimate what I'm tracking against. Then materials. Again, we're tracking by work area. So I have the work area breakdown, filling in my materials on the timesheets here as well. Again, all of this, like labor, equipment, material, subcontractors. I have miscellaneous items. Again, if I'm using general conditions, they're going to be here as well on the construction job. So the breakdown of all the things that we estimated, what did we actually use? Again, we fill it in, like I said, whether it's a plant, whether it's stone, labor is always first, and the labor, again, requires a breakdown of the hours. The rest of the materials just want to know how much of this did you use on there as well. Doesn't care who used it, just how much of this got used on there as well. So at the very bottom, there's a spot for notes from the crew. And again, if they need to note something for you to go back to Manage, it can be entered in here, can be entered in the app. It goes back, it saves it against the job. Just want to show you where it goes. So I can save this. Now, within 360 here, within the Manage site, if I needed to add something that was not on the timesheet, so we hadn't put in the estimate, we somewhat, again, potentially forgot it, or we just did something additional we did, we kind of just want to use something instead of what we had on there. If I use add items here, I can add something from my cost book on there. So this is done from within Manage itself on there. And then that item will go into the job actuals as well for that, with an estimated amount of 0 from there. Now, put this in, I'll save the job log. Now again, because I don't have any red in the labor, it'll let me save it. If I had some yellow, it would still let me save it as well, but the red will get, that's an error message won't let you save. Click Save Job Log. So now all the information I put in is now updated here. So you can see that the 7:15 to the 5, those are now based on what I had put in on the other side. So it's basically, it's kind of saying this is the earliest that anyone on here has done. They each have different start times, but this is the earliest until 5 o'clock. So I'd change those. I'd have to go back into the job log to edit them. This icon over here being filled in, these are the notes that I had put in. So if they had put notes, and like I said, app or not, they're coming back. You can see them directly on the timesheet as well. And then this row here, it's automatically filled in with the duration that they had as well for that. If there's notes that kind of apply to the entire job, that can be done as well on there. Excuse me for that. Now, when they're ready here, like so when it's, again, whether it's done on the app or not, when it's ready for approval, I can't just approve this time. So I have to go into the next phase, save and set ready for approval. Now, I'll do that on this one, and we'll do it on the other one as well. So it's basically, all it does, it changes the phase, the state of that timesheet. Saved, it's now ready for approval, so that we know when we're coming in here, which ones need approval, and you can do those as well. Now let's go into the maintenance one quickly, just kind of show you a couple different options on there for that. So in the maintenance ones, you know, I have, again, if I click on so the biggest difference, the maintenance ones have this visit should take about this long. When we estimated, we thought we were going to be done this visit in 40 minutes, in 60 minutes. So this is like 19 minutes each. It's like 20 minutes each. This is an hour. It's an hour 1 man hour, but it's going to last 90 minutes because we're each going to be doing 20 minutes of work on there as well. So this is coming from our initial estimates on here as well. And then again, if they use the app, start and end time are coming directly from the app as well. So I can change the start and end time here, or just like with a construction job, I click on the visit here, I can open this and I can change the starting and ending time of the individual guys if they had different start and end times as well. Now, the biggest thing here with the maintenance is that we roll up the total labor here. We say we don't break it into the different components. It's just here's the total labor for this job, so for this visit. What's the actual? The actual is not calculated yet because it comes from start end from different guys. Once I approve the timesheet, this actual quantity will be updated as well. Now, for any non-labor item, materials, equipment, I can adjust those directly in here as well. And again, if I have the app, same thing, I can adjust these quantities. I can say how much of the fertilizer we use. We estimated 5 pounds, we use 5.5 pounds. I can change that amount here as well. So any non-labor items, we can change the actual quantity directly on the work order, whether it's on there as well. Now, they put their time in again. So the time comes from this start end on there. Again, I don't have to go in. If everyone has the same start and end time, I don't need to open the work order up to change it. I can do it right from this page as well. I need to go into the work if I want to change anything, like if I need to change the material so they can do it from there as well. But otherwise, I can do it right from this main page. Now, with the visits, so the visits have the overlap. The overlapping works a bit different with maintenance visits here. So for example, this one, again, if I work from 10 to 1 and I took lunch at 12 to 12:30, you can see that this one, it's giving me this yellow message here saying these guys have exceeded. So it says they work for 3 hours, but there's a half-hour lunch in there. So either I need to adjust my lunch time like properly. Well, they took lunch at 1 o'clock and I changed the lunch time, or if they did take lunch and this was the correct lunch time, the easiest thing is to go into these values here and just change those directly in there as well for that. Again, if they're using the app, then you're clocking in and out of the visit and in and out of lunch, it's going to capture that information properly if they're using the app. Again, the key is clocking in and out of all the things that they're doing. We're going to lunch, clock into lunch, clock out of the job. But if you're on the timesheet here, if you ever run into these errors here or these warning messages here as well, exceeded, typically it's because there's an overlap that it needs to be addressed on there. So if I try to set this ready for approval, it's going to say, so you can't even get, this thing can't even get to approval state because it's like these guys have worked too much on there as well for that. Let me just fix them up here. Now, if I had clock-ins again on this, I can go here from the mobile app and I can adjust the clock-ins to make sure that it's done properly. Again, if they hadn't clocked in lunch, but if they do clock in out of lunch on the mobile app, all this will be captured properly as well. So we have it here. Now, with these visits, so with the maintenance visits, in order to build them or to manage how this visit is done, we want to change the status of these visits to closed. Now, again, if I can go into each visit and I can flip it to closed. If I want to do that thing, if I want a couple visits, I can do that, make sure it's done. That's fine. Alternately, what we've built into here is that when I'm sending this for approval, one of the options is, okay, you have work orders that are open on there as well. Do you want me, so the system, you want the system to automatically close them? So close the open ones. So again, as I'm going for approval, I've got my time in there, we did them all, set them as closed. So this way, instead of, again, if I have 6 or 8 stops on this thing, I don't need to go into every one and change it. As I send it ready for approval, it'll automatically close it for us on there. Now, again, this is also built into the app as well. So when they submit the app back, when they submit the timesheet back from the app, they can choose to do this as well there. So I do this, it's closed. Now, if I need to change the status, if one of the work orders, and I'll hit cancel here for now, if one of the visits here, this last one here, we have to leave at 2 o'clock, change it to 2 p.m., but we weren't finished, something came up, we couldn't finish it, we need to go back, we're going back tomorrow to finish this one specifically, like we're going back the next day, we're not quite done yet, then the best thing to do for the ones that, so that's, we have the status called partially complete. So if I open this particular one up, excuse me, I can set it as partially complete. Now that is an open substatus, partially complete. This means that this visit, what's on here right now is good, but it's not quite finished yet. So I need to have it on the next timesheet and I can finish it. Now it could be like just a short 20-minute stop. It could be longer, but it's like track what I have so that it'll stay on this timesheet. This timesheet can be approved, but this particular visit will then appear also on my next timesheet once I've approved it as well. So, and again, when it's done, then we close it, and so then it'll be marked off properly on there as well. Now this again also can be done from the mobile app. They can mark visits as partially complete. So I save it. So that one there is partially complete. If I go to set ready for approval now, it's you open, and this one tells me this one's partially complete, right? So it knows that that one's a special state. So it's like submitting it, close the open ones, but it's going to leave that partially complete one as it is for now. Now, on the next day when I'm finished it, if I forget to flip it, I can also close it as well. So at the end of the day, I need to close that partially complete one when it's done. Otherwise, it keeps saying it's not done, it's not done, it's not done on there. So for now, I'll say that one's open for tomorrow. When I hit continue, again, it's ready for approval. If I open that one up again, those two are closed. This one is still partially complete, but that manager understands that status, so it knows that I can approve this on the April 12th timesheet for the maintenance crew one. That partially complete visit will show up there as well for that. Now, I'm just going to pop out of here. So the filling them in, like I said, you want to get to the point ready for approval. Again, whether they're coming from the app, they'll be in this ready for approval state, or they're being filled in here in this state. The approval process here is making them actuals. Whether it's a construction job or maintenance job, the approval process makes them the actuals that we have. Also, what it does as well for maintenance, so those closed visits is also important for billing. When I approve these timesheets and they have those closed visits, once the times they're approved, it says, oh yeah, those things are done now. You can bill these now as well on there, and they're automatically ready for billing. So the approval process, again, pretty straightforward and managed. Basically, again, if you have a specific role, you can see you're able to approve timesheets, so people can create them. Other people can see them when they're in progress, and only specific people can approve them as well. Now, to approve, we have different ways of approving. You can approve them in bulk. You can approve them, one at a time on there. Now, before I approve, I just want to quickly go into one of these to show you. So it's not in progress. So if I open this up now, so if I go to actions, the delete button is not available anymore because it's in progress, because it's ready for approval. So it tells you deletion of submitted or approved is not permitted. So basically, they have another function here that if I need to go back one step back to in progress, I can do that. So this is if I need to delete. If I got this far, I realized I'm mistaken, delete it. I need to go back to in progress, then I can delete the timesheet. So this, you'll start seeing this one. The deletion button will be hidden on approved or submitted timesheets as well on there. Now, the approval license, you can go into individual ones, click approve, it'll approve it. You can also, from this main timesheets page, you can click on this approve timesheets button over here. Now, I want to show you what happens. Again, there's a few timesheets of approval in here that I have. Some of them have errors. So I just want to kind of show you what some kind of errors you might see when you try to approve timesheets as well. So click approve time. This one, again, it doesn't approve them all. It's going to collect all of the ones that are ready and show them to me in a window here. So it's validating, so you can see that there's several that are ready on here. Now, like the ones I just did today, no warnings, no errors, fine. So I can click approve, approve, approve right beside the ones I want, or I can't approve all of them because these aren't ready here as well. Or I can go into the specific ones and then approve those as well. This kind of, so if there are errors, you will see them here as well. Things like this timesheet here, there's a work order is not closed. So a work order got left open, So now you can't approve it. It's not partially complete and it's not closed. So something needs to be done with that particular work order. So you could go into that timesheet and then I got to take it off. I did do that work today. I forgot to remove it, or it can be dealt with. Or things like there's no hours on the job log. So somehow, we tried to approve this thing. There's no hours on the job log. There's stuff on my timesheet that has nothing on there as well. So you might see things like this to help. So the best thing to do is to go into the timesheet and then see, okay, so this, again, if you look for the yellow highlighting, you can see like this here. So this job here has literally no start, no end. But not only that, it has no piece. So if I open up this timesheet here, there's nothing. There's no hours for anybody. So there's no sense. I can't approve this because there's nothing to do. So either I need to correct this, put some time that we did on there, or under here, I can delete that job because there's nothing there for me to approve on there as well for that. So like I said, it's just when you try to do the bulk approval, it gives the errors. You can try and tell you what's wrong with them. So things like you go into here, the yellow highlighting usually gives you if there's an overlap or if there's things that needs information. So you do need labor on a job in order to approve it. Construction job, whether it's 2 minutes, it's fine. There's got to be some labor on the job for it as well. Now, I'll delete this thing here. You can delete this, and then this particular timesheet, I can now try and approve it from here as well on there. But like I said, it can be approved. Now, I'm going to approve a couple of these just to give an example. So I'll click approve timesheets from here. So that one, again, there's no warnings. I can fix that one up. So this one down here, I'll approve this construction one. I click approve. And so now it's approved my list. It's gone from my screen stays. That one's gone from the list on there as well. I can approve this one as well. Sure, approve that one. And I can approve, but again, or I can go into them as well. Hit close for those. But those you can approve them right from there. And so now I'll refresh my page over here. So those ones are now approved on there. So it's again just status got changed. I want to quickly open them up. Just kind of a last thing we're going to look at today. So you can see that we've gone from creating, filling them in, details on filling them in and how to kind of troubleshoot some of the issues, and then the approval process, but also now what happens when it's approved. So if I look at this particular job here, again, an approved timesheet, like I said, it also shows you who submitted it, when it was submitted, who approved it, when it was approved. All that is listed there. When it's approved, everything on here is read-only. I can't change anything. I can see the notes, can't change them. Can't change the notes here. Can't change the job actuals. I can look at the job actuals, cannot change anything. So, and that's because these are now the job actuals. If I open this job, all the information from here is now on that job as well. The big takeaway here is that if I notice an error, so if I've like, oh man, I proved it, I didn't mean to, the guys came back, they told me they made a mistake, to fix that. I can't just do it on here. I have to basically go to actions on approved timesheet and I can revert it. So basically I'm taking away the approval, becomes editable again. I can make the corrections and then I can reapprove it. So the thing to note here is that if I do this, because it's already approved, when I click this button, it's going to give me a warning message saying, okay, well, if you're taking away the approval, these job actuals are going to be removed from there. And then, are you sure? So again, this is typically fine because yes, I'm sure, take them away. I will make the corrections and then I will reapprove it and then they'll be re-added back into the job as well on there. So again, the approval is the last step. This makes these the job actuals. All my time materials is now against that job. I run employee hours report for the 11th. I'll get all of this on there as well. I start doing job profitability on those jobs. I can see the detail. I go into the job itself. In the job actuals, I can see all the detail that's in there that's coming from the timesheets. Like I said, the filling in, again, whether the app is used or not, the timesheets still need to be made. Then they're filled in, then they still be approval. So the app itself is very useful for the filling, helping to fill in the timesheets. They're still created and approved directly in Manage360 itself. So that's kind of what I wanted to, go over for today on there.
Appreciate it,
So
Fabio.
back to Joe there.
Thank you. If anyone has any questions, we do have a question tab that you can go ahead and pop your questions in. So feel free to do that. Or email us or call us. Support@DynaSCAPE.com is our email address, and you can get us toll free at 1-800-710-1900 extension 1. And we'll definitely be happy to take any kind of questions you might have about this particular session, how to use Manage360, or any kind of technical related issues that you might have experienced. So this session has been recorded. Later today, we're going to post it to this link. It's the same link that has been posted inside of Manage360, so in the application. So definitely go and check that out. You'll also get a notification likely tomorrow that the session has been uploaded. Check us out next week for webinar number 8, where we'll maximize the efficiencies with the mobile crew tracking app. And we'll likely even talk about some of the latest enhancements we've done with that for labor type tracking as well. So definitely stay tuned for that and join us next week, same day, same time. So Thursday at 2:30 Eastern in the afternoon. And we'll talk to you then. Thank you. Thanks, Fabio. Appreciate your time. That was
No problem. Thanks a
fantastic.
lot.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.